Hi Dario, how are you doing?
Hey Mark, doing well. What about you?
Yeah, very good. So I guess for those who are watching and listening, I'm Mark of Unbundled VC, but this isn't really about me. This is about you, Dario, and about Brick. So I wonder if we can start by just like I'd love to hear your basically your background, your history, and kind of what led you to what you're doing today.
Thanks so much. Yeah, definitely. I will give you a couple of words on myself. So basically, I come from a business background. So my background is actually on business, but while I was at the university, I was actually super passionate about product design. So basically, what I did back then was starting working as a freelancer in product design, designing a small website. Eventually, what I got to understand was the fact that I was also super passionate about coding. So basically, I dived more into the backend part. And when I approached the job market, I was actually looking for something that gave me the possibility of touching both things. So on one side, the product design, on the other side, the actual development of that stuff. I got rapidly to understand that no one hires a product manager without experience. So basically, what I did was joining this small startup, working in growth and marketing, whatever it was back then. But I started pushing with the CEO in order to take product responsibility. So basically, I wasn't quite sure about that, to be honest. He was like the sole product person in that company. So at the beginning, it was quite tough, but I just basically started doing some stuff, presenting the output of my ideas, and that was good. So I
What?
transitioned to a position. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say like what sort of stuff? How did you manage to go about doing that?
So basically, we had a couple of problems in our B2B product. So we were structuring our B2B product back then, and it was like a lot of stuff going on, I would say. So we basically hadn't collected that much user feedback. So we started speaking with them. We got to understand that a lot of the stuff were actually not super targeted for these people. So basically, we started fixing that kind of stuff in order to make the product a little bit more user centric. And that was a lot of work actually, and no one really wanted to do that, like speaking with a lot of people and that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of responsibility that I got
So did you
at the beginning.
basically kind of volunteered, like no one wanted to do it, and you were just like, "Hey, I'll go do this."
Yeah, I mean, like I was super passionate about product. I knew that I could provide value working as a product manager, but I needed to prove myself on that. So that's what I did. Yeah.
Got it. Awesome. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry. Please carry on. Apologies for the interruption.
no problem. So basically, I spent 2 years in Nebo. My previous startup, it was quite exciting. 2 rounds of fundraising. I joined as a fifth employee, left as a 15 employee. Basically, I after 2 years, I had the possibility of joining Antler. That's where I moved to Paris. Took part to the Antler program in Paris. It was the first cohort there in Paris. And actually, it was right after the release of ChatGPT. So kind of everyone was speaking about the future after AI or what the future will look like after AI and that kind of stuff. In my case, having some coding background, I knew I was particularly intrigued actually by the intersection of the world of AI with the world of APIs. Because on one side, I knew how much value there was in APIs, but on the other side, I knew how complex it was for business and non-technical people to access all of that value. So AI in this context was a tool to be used in order to make it simpler, faster, easier for that business and non-technical people to retrieve and access all of that value. So basically
Was
what I did was, sorry,
sorry, Dario. Was that a problem you'd seen at your previous startup?
Um, I, I, I would say yes, but actually it was way more something that I was passionate about. Then I got to understand that actually by speaking with developers, I spoke with probably 100 tech teams and developers, where I got to understand that most of them were actually like the most popular pain point when I spoke with them was the fact that actually when they needed to expose the value of internal APIs to their internal users, like business people, like customer support and operations, it was super complex for them to build the admin panels for this company. So just like to give some context on what an admin panel is. An admin panel is basically an internal software that gives the possibility to customer support and operation to perform operation like refunding an order, or updating the subscription plan of a company, or retrieving the detail of one specific user. And what I got to understand was the fact that actually that was one pain point that I felt myself when I was working in my previous startup. And it was super deep actually, because we were spending way too much time in building the front end of these admin panels. And what I got to understand when I started speaking with tech teams was the fact that actually developers are spending 1/3 of their time on building and maintaining these admin panels for their companies. And that's actually crazy, considering that actually between the 70 and 95% of the time is actually dedicated to building the front end of these admin panels. Front end of admin panels that are just used internally, and at the end of the day are actually all the same. They have tables for exposing a list of users, list of orders, list of transactions, and forms in order to perform operation on this data. So basically, BricsAI starts from this assumption and gives the possibility to tech teams to simply customize the only thing which is actually changing from admin panel to the admin panel, which is actually the internal API of these companies. Once they have built the internal API of this company, they can simply connect that internal API to BricsAI, which instantly and automatically generates the admin panel on top of them. And every time that they make some small updates, some small changes on the API level, BricsAI understands those changes and automatically reflect the changes made on the API also on the admin panel. So that it's possible for tech teams to go from actually spending 1/3 of their time on building and maintaining these admin panels to spending 0% of their time building and maintaining these admin panels.
Got it. And so, like, how much of this is built and what's to be built? Like, what stage have you got to?
So basically, I was working as a solo founder until 5 months ago, actually. I started working on BricsAI 9 months ago, roughly, and I spent 3 months building the alpha version of BricsAI. With that version, the goal was not only the fact of validating actually that customers were ready to pay for that, but also to validate the fact that they were ready to pay twice as high if compared to the main competitor of BricsAI, which is actually Retool. So basically, what's wrong with Retool? So you might actually know Retool. Retool is an internal tool builder. It gives you the possibility of assembling any sort of interfaces with a drag and drop interface. At the same time, using Retool costs weeks and weeks of setup and maintenance works to developers, which is definitely something that you don't want when you're actually building a simple internal tool. In short, Retool asks you basically to spend a lot of development time for creating the most basic website. And not only that, but every time you update your internal API, you also have to make a lot of work in order to update the front end of their admin panels. So basically, this is what we are addressing with BricsAI. We are giving the possibility to tech teams to simply focus on their internal API and have an admin panel which is instantly generated on top of their API, customized to their needs. And every time that you update your API, and this is very frequent, especially for companies scaling fast, that changes are automatically reflected on the admin panel.
Got it. Oh, so I'm in one of those rooms where the light goes out. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So you've been winning customers from them.
Yeah, so like the cool thing that we got to understand when we approached the market with the demo of the beta, which was actually 1 month ago. One month ago, we basically released the demo of the beta of BricsAI, which we are releasing in a week from now. And basically what we got to understand was the fact that we were having tons and tons of traction from Retool users. And the best thing is the fact that actually we're currently closing pilots with 75% of the companies with which we are actually closing these pilots are actually Retool paid users. In terms of that, the most interesting insight that we got is actually the fact that these customers are ready to pay twice as high for BricsAI, because they know how much time they're currently spending on building and maintaining these admin panels. And with BricsAI, they see the possibility of streamlining that development and the possibility for the CTO to allocate that engineering resources to the customer-facing product. And that's something that we are super proud of, honestly.
Okay, so it's basically time save, which is either money save or put those software engineers, point them at something else.
Yeah, exactly. You can sell this in a positive or negative way. At the end of the day, the best thing is probably to say, okay, you have these engineering resources that are actually completely wasted by building internal tools. You can relocate these engineering resources to building what's something that, like the thing that actually provides value to your company, which is the customer-facing product.
And how big is this problem? Like how many? Yeah, because like obviously, professional investors, we want to know there's a chance of a venture scale outcome.
Yeah. So basically, one thing that I was saying previously is the fact that at the moment, developers are spending 1/3 of their time on internal tool development. which actually makes it $500,000 cost for a basic company of 60 employees and 16 developers. So basically, we are speaking about a 20 billion a year problem just in terms of our initial ICP. Just like to speak about our ICP, we are basically entering the market with a precise idea of what that ICP will look like. And these are basically companies that have scarce engineering resources, a high volume of operational tasks, and are actually scaling fast. All of these characteristics makes BricsAI perfect for them, because on one side, they can minimize the time that developers spend on an admin panel. And the other side, they actually have an admin panel which is always updated, always reliable for the business team to perform operation like activating user, updating subscription plan, refunding orders, and so on. So basically, we have roughly 30,000 targets in terms of in terms of the initial ICP, which are actually currently ready to pay around 4K a year for accessing BricsAI. So obviously, in terms of the future development, we see these to have a lot of value also to an enterprise customer. For that, we are actually building an open source version that will give them the possibility to customize everything in how they build their internal tools.
Got it. Okay, if you're building an open source version, like how do you get paid for that?
Yeah, traditional question. So basically, we will couple the open source version with a commercial open source version that will basically be paid with a license fee together with a usage-based pricing. Basically, we are embedding inside the product an anonymous API call that counts how many interactions are performed between the admin panels and the internal APIs of this company, so that it's possible for us to estimate how much we can make this company pay, obviously together with the license that will give them access to enterprise level features, obviously.
Got it. So the ICP itself is a big market, but there's a lot more than that to come as well.
Yeah, Retool speaks about a 250 billion market, but we are actually seeing that it's growing a lot, like 10% growth rate, actually, we're seeing.
Okay, that's cool. So are you raising?
Yeah. So basically, we approached fundraising 3 weeks ago. We are currently conducting the due diligence with one Italian fund that are offering around 700,000 via SAFE. We have additional 300,000, actually 250,000 of commitments from followers, and another 300, 400,000 at the final stages, also from followers. We're actually closing at 1.3 million, but we are going to consider also the possibility of going a little bit above that threshold and actually consider oversubscribed round. That's something that we are actually considering at the moment. Obviously, it's going very, very fast, so it needs like to be like whomever is actually approaching BricsAI at this stage, it's important that goes fast. And
yeah, I was going to say, like, you've got like 3 weeks, you've got basically pretty much or close to 1.3 million in commits. Is pretty, that's euros, but that, I mean, that's pretty fast. Yeah, so basically anyone, I guess we talked about what your ICP is. What's your, if someone wants to come in and be considered for oversubscription, what does your ideal investor look like? I guess what's the ICP of that?
As you might imagine, for what we are building, actually, we are targeting the worldwide market and especially the US market. So it's really important for us to have a strong link with the US market, and at the moment we are not quite there yet. I mean, like we have to go there, and if there are funds that are actually able to connect that with that market, that will be very, very helpful on our side again. But actually, speed right now is very important for us. We need to put the fuel in the engine. We need to put like to have the resources in order to hire and scale fast, because yeah, we have a lot of stuff to be done right now.
Also, you've got all that money quickly. You just want to close and go back to building, right?
Yeah, exactly. Can't wait, honestly.
Cool. Before we finish up, anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about?
No, nothing in particular, actually. Yeah, no, it was pretty complete, I would say.
Okay, that's great. Well, look, thank you for your time and for explaining about Brics, Dario.
Thanks so much, Mark. It's been a real pleasure.
Cheers. Have a good day.
Cheers. Bye-bye.